Привет всем! Oh, I gotta take off those headphones. That's too loud. Okay. Привет всем! С вами я, это Janie. Thank you for coming back. I didn't post a video to remind everybody, so hopefully people didn't forget. So we're just starting it now. Ich. That's what I'm going to call you. Ich. So today we're doing Kino. And this is one of my most favorite. And you can't, I'm trying to think what would be our American equivalent of Victor Tsoi. I really don't know. It's almost like the popularity of the Beatles, but his voice really reminds me of Bob Dylan. And actually, the first Russian song I ever heard was a Kino song. And he sounded just, and in fact, I want to do that video. It's called Просто хочешь ты знать. So that's the first Russian song I ever heard in my life. And I heard it on the airplane when I was flying to Russia the first time. So I thought actually I want to do a live stream on the anniversary of the day that I flew into Russia for the first time. So I'll do that. That'll be in August because I flew to Russia for the first time in August of 2003. So if you have not yet discovered Kino and Victor Tsoi, you need to know it. It's as popular in Russian music as I would say the Beatles. I wouldn't compare him to Michael Jackson because it wasn't that kind of style, but he's an important part of the music. So if you're old enough to have remembered, if you're Russian and you're old enough to remember Victor Tsoi, I'm interested to know, what did people think about Victor Tsoi in the 80s when he was popular? Ну, например, что говорили ваши родители, когда они слышали его музыку, как они относились к нему? Это мне интересно. И какие песни вы любите из его песен? So good. So we're going to talk today about Pachka Сигарет. Pachka Сигарет. Somebody requested this one, and I felt like it was a good starter one because it's very simple and very repetitive. So we're going to go through this, the usual pattern. As you know, we translate it word for word. And as you remember from some of my previous videos, it doesn't sound very pretty in English when we just go word for word. So that's when we work together and everybody helps come up with a very beautiful way to translate it so it sounds good in English. And this is where it's fun to have the Russians help us with that because they know what things mean. And in fact, there's two idioms. There's one idiom in this song that is very difficult for me to translate. So if you're a Russian and you're watching this, please stay with us because I'm going to really need your help translating one line in particular. Yay! Zubsov, he's one of the Americans heard. Yes, good. I'm not the only person. Alexei Zubsov says that he thinks that Bob Dylan and Victor Tsoi are similar. I totally agree. And I think they have similar voices. That's what's interesting to me is I think they have similar voices as well, similar style with just like very simple guitar, simple songs, very easy to understand. So I really love Kino, and my students always are listening to Kino in the classroom. We listen to Просто хочешь ты знать. We do Время есть, а денег нет. That's a good one. Привет всем, добро пожаловать. The other one that I love is Троллейбус. Троллейбус, который идет на восток. That's a really good one. So yes, you can't go wrong with Victor Tsoi. All of his songs are great. And what I love about him is they're very simple. It's very simple language and very easy to understand. Ich. I'm going to call you Ich because that's what your name looks like. Okay, Ich. Так что вы сейчас меня вообще не понимаете, когда я говорю по-английски. Разве вам не скучно? Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be good. And we're going to do an exercise here that will be good for people who are learning English too, because we're going to practice translating a particular verb. Okay, хорошо, поехали. So again, we're going to go through word for word. So start looking at this text. Let me switch these two. Start looking at the text and think, how would I translate that? Привет, Joseph. Привет всем. И поехали. And if you watched my video from last Thursday about verbs, you already are going to know some of these verbs and hopefully remember how to conjugate them as well. Here we go. I сижу. Thinking. I sit. And смотрю. Okay, so this one is a tricky one, and I have a little thing. We're going to say look, and remember, sometimes it can be watch, and I have a little exercise we're going to do. This is at, sometimes too. Чужое. This can be translated in a couple of ways. So this is one I would love help with translating. So I'm going to say foreign here. But it can also be like a strange. So let me know if you agree with that translation, okay? And then небо is sky. So hopefully you guys know all these words. Hopefully your Russian vocabulary is good enough that you understood all of those words. Again, that is why Kino music is so great, because it's very familiar words and phrases. Except for in this song, there's a few difficult idioms that I'm going to need help. Ooh, alien. Молодец. Yes, an alien sky. That sounds cool. Okay. And then we've got is, from. Чужого. There's that word again. I'm going to do alien on this one. That one kind of sounds cool. I like alien. That sounds good. Window. And don't see. Not a single. So this is like not one, not a single familiar star. Okay? So see how simple this vocabulary is? Isn't that's the best part. Ooh, we've got a Cure reference. I love the Cure. Также считается, что этих ребят советский музыкант. Oh, good. Somebody else's. That's smart. That is smart. Okay, so when we work on our translation, I think it'll make more sense which of these versions of чужой. So notice how if you're reading in the comments, lots of people had different ideas of how to translate this word, чужое. So this is going to be a fun one to discuss, especially in our comments back on the community page. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at the grammar. Grammar. Here we go. My green pen. Okay, the original of сижу is сидеть. Сидеть. And if you guys watched my verb video, how does it conjugate and what conjugation is it? It's a second conjugation verb. So я сижу, он сидит, мы сидим, вы сидите, они сидят. Okay? Очень хорошо. So сижу, сидеть. Смотрю. Okay, we're going to do a fun little exercise with this verb, and I think it will be very useful for the Russians as well. So смотрю. This comes from the verb смотреть. This also is a second conjugation, and I see Russians make spelling mistakes on this. Я смотрю, ты смотришь, он смотрит, and all of those conjugations are written with an I. Он смотрит, not a ye. Sometimes Russians spell that wrong. Он смотрит, ты смотришь. So because we see this I, it tells us it's a second conjugation verb. Okay, we're going to pause right there and do a little activity. Start looking at these phrases and tell me, how would you translate each of them? Because this is difficult for people learning English too. I notice all of my Brazilian family, they get confused on when to say look and when to say watch, okay? So how would you translate these phrases? Go ahead and write it in the comments. What's the difference between смотреть телевизор, смотреть на телевизор, смотреть на детей, or смотреть за детьми? These are very interesting. How would you translate all of these into English? It's a little bit surprising. You're going to be surprised. So, смотреть телевизор. Your friend calls you and says, что ты делаешь? What are you doing? Я смотрю телевизор. I'm watching television. Now, if somebody is, если ты смотришь на телевизор, This sounds really, and this is a mistake that my students often do. Я смотрю на телевизор, я читаю новости, right? So смотрю на телевизор is very funny. It sounds like you're just sitting there staring at the TV because maybe you couldn't find the remote or something. Like you don't have the energy to look for the remote, so you're just sitting there staring at the TV. Okay, so do not do this. This sounds really weird. Смотреть на телевизор. That would be like saying in English, looking at the TV. Like you're just sitting there staring at the TV. We don't say that in English, right? Смотреть на детей. And what's the difference between смотреть на детей and смотреть за детьми? За детьми. Okay, Alexei, good. You got everything correct. So смотреть на детей, that's like maybe there's some weird guy at the park and he's just like staring at the kids. He's looking at the kids. So notice how I'm translating this into English. It can be watch. It can be look at. It can be stare. Sorry, my handwriting. Stare at. So I would say somebody's staring at the kids. Это стрёмно, это некрасиво. So you don't want to be just staring at чужих детей. Не надо смотреть на чужих детей. Okay, now Alexei, you wrote look after. Yes. However, look after is a little bit old-fashioned. Okay, look after is a little bit old-fashioned. I would translate this now as to watch the kids. So for example, people often ask me, кто смотрит за детьми, когда ты работаешь? How would you translate that? Кто смотрит за детьми, когда ты работаешь? Who watches the kids while you work? Who watches the kids? That's how you translate that into English. Okay, next one. People who are learning Russian. How would you ask somebody if they've ever seen Harry Potter, for example? So notice in English, we say, have you seen that movie? We say see. We don't say, have you ever watched Harry Potter? That sounds really weird in English. I'm just letting you know. So in Russian, you would say, ты когда-нибудь смотрел Гарри Поттера? Right? Have you ever watched it? This is the verb you use if you want to ask somebody if they've ever seen a particular movie. Have you ever seen that movie? Notice in English, we use the word seen if you're wanting to know if somebody has seen a certain movie. Okay. So I just thought I would do that because, like I said, my Brazilian family, they get all of these watch, look at, see, they get them all confused a lot of times. So I noticed that that's probably hard for people who are learning English as well. Okay, назад к тексту. Вот. Хорошо. So I'm looking at an alien sky. I think we're voting for alien. I think everybody likes alien. That does sound cool. Смотрю в чужое небо. So he's not watching the небо, he's looking at it. And that's why we have added in this extra at. Okay. And then we're getting accusative case here because you look in the direction of something, which is getting accusative case. So the original was чужой. And we have neuter because небо is neuter. Okay. And remember, in accusative case, only things that are feminine, singular, change, or animate. If they're animate, they become genitive case. Okay. From, and then look at this ending. See if you can identify what case it is before I write it out for you. Is, forces, genitive case. And the original of window was окно. So as you can see, the O went to an A in genitive case. И не вижу. The original of this verb is видеть. And guess what? It's another second conjugation verb. Я вижу. Ты видишь. Он видит. Мы видим. Они видят. Ни одной. Okay. So the original of this would have been одна because it's describing a star, which is feminine. But the second we put in there this negation, this ni, it's going to need genitive case after it. Genitive. So we get ни одной. There's another genitive ending. The original of it would have been знакомая. And then the original of this is звезда. So all of this is getting Genitive because of the negation here. Negation often forces genitive case in Russian. Okay, so before I switch this page, let's make a pretty translation. This is where I need your help in the comments. So I sit and look at an alien sky from an alien window. Do you guys like that? Let me know. From an alien window, because I don't know, alien window sounds a little weird to me, but let me know what you think. And I don't see a single familiar star. I don't see a single familiar star. Не вижу ни одной знакомой звезды. Звезды. What's the difference? Tell me, what is the difference between звезды and звезды? Who knows? What is the difference between звезды and звезды? Oh, I like that, Christy. Yes, unfamiliar window. Yep, unfamiliar window, because that implies like, I like that. So what's the difference between звезды and звезды? This is really hard for Russian, people who are learning Russian. Звезды is the singular genitive, so like of the stars, or there is no star. And звезды is the stars, nominative, plural. It's going to do the same thing with сестра. Это комната моей сестры, that's genitive singular. And это мои сестры. These are my sisters. Okay, so sometimes we get that. Russian is crazy like that. Okay, хорошо. Следующие слова. Here we go, word for word. Start anticipating how to translate these. Я ходил. I went. Along. По is очень трудно перевести. All roads. And there and here. Turned around. And not not could. That sounds really funny. Not could. Let's just put this together and say couldn't. Couldn't. Okay, разглядеть. Ooh, this is a hard one to translate. I need help. I need help from my viewers. Разглядеть. So we're going to say make out. Okay, be careful with this word, with this phrase, make out, because it can also mean like целоваться. Like, you know, if you just say it by itself, it means like целоваться. So make out something. If you can't make it out, then that's when. Oh, стрёмно. Да, я знаю такие слова, конечно. Ooh, look at that translation. Everybody look at what Alexei wrote. I like that. A window where I don't belong from a window that's not mine. Ooh, обалдеть, молодец. Очень впечатляет, молодец. Okay, so let's go back to разглядеть. Start writing me your suggestions for разглядеть. Make out, if you want to get fancy, if you want to have very sophisticated vocabulary, you could say decipher. Ooh, decipher. You can't decipher any tracks, or I would say footprints. But I'm very open to ideas about, discern. Good one. Good one. Discern. Oh, yeah, I actually think discern is the correct one, not decipher. Discern. Discern. Good. Okay, so here we go. Let's analyze the grammar. Guys, if you have not learned about how to say to go in the past tense in Russian, it's even worse than how to say to go in the present tense in Russian. So just when you think you understand to go in Russian, it gets more complicated. I'll be doing another video at the end of the summer about how to say went in Russian, and it's not easy. I'm warning you. Okay, so I walked along, and this is the by foot, right? And it comes from ходить, and this is past tense. Pa. Pa can be translated in a million different ways, but in this context, it's along all the roads. I walked along all the roads, And this is getting på gets dative. Sorry, what language do I want to write in here? Dative case. And the original of this was все. Все. And the original of this one was дороги. Так. So, and then we turn it into dative and we get по всем дорогам. И туда, и сюда. Okay. So going there, coming back, that's the same. Обернулся. The original of this was обернуться. And it means to turn around, and then this is the past tense. И не смог. Не смог. The original of this was смочь. Смочь. And this is past tense, and it's a masculine. So this is an irregular past tense. Он мог, она могла, мы могли. It's a weird past tense. In the same way that the English version is also an irregular. I can, you can, I could, he could, right? Okay, so разглядеть. Разглядеть. I think we can do discern. I think we like discern because it's pretty. It sounds fancy. And like I said, make out, for those of you who know English, I mean, if you're talking to like a 14-year-old boy, he's going to go, make out, right? Because it means целоваться, like долгое время целоваться. Okay, so разглядеть следы. This isn't changing because it's accusative case. And it's not a feminine singular. And it's not animate. So we don't change it. Okay, очень хорошо. So I went along all the roads there, here and there. Here and there. I turned around but couldn't discern any footprints. Notice in English I added in an any. I would add in either any or my footprints, because Russian sometimes leaves out a my when like in English we need the my for it to make sense, and then sometimes you'd leave it out in Russian. This is interesting. Main Harvest says that it looks like how many roads must a man walk down. This is interesting because we were just talking about Bob Dylan, right? And so it's very similar. Okay, хорошо. Следующие слова. But here we go. This is the course. Okay, so this is the course, and this is where I need some help because I don't know. There's a question I have about the song. So, but if there is, this is literally there is, but remember, have. It can also mean have. In pocket, pack, cigarettes. And there's an invisible of here. We need to insert that when we do our English translation. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Cigarettes. That means, oh, put our dots on there. Everything not so bad. Uж. This isn't going to translate not so bad. I don't know how to translate just that. For today. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at the grammar. But if there is, so we're going to have to translate this in English as I have. Right? If there's a pack, I mean, I guess you could say that. If there's a pack of cigarettes in my pocket, you don't have to do it as an I have. That's fine. So you could say, if there's a pack of cigarettes. So remember how I told you that in English, sometimes we have to insert a my? Good. Yeah, not that bad. So in English, sometimes we have to insert a my for it to sound good. So notice in Russian, there's no my happening here, but it's implied. In English, we need to actually put in a my for it to sound good. Because in the pocket, like if you were just to say, but if I have in the pocket, no, that sounds awkward. That sounds weird. We're going to put in a my. So if I have a pack of cigarettes in my pockets. Okay, so let's look at the original here. The original was karman. And v gets what case? Gets Prepositional, because it's in your pocket. Okay. Pachka. Notice because we have an invisible of here, this is getting genitive plural. The original was sigareta. And remember that feminines in the genitive plural, they get a zero ending. They get a zero ending. So they're going to suddenly end in a consonant. So много сигарет, например. Много конфет. Good. So cigarette, we get genitive. This one is genitive plural. And it was obviously a feminine to begin with. And that's why we are suddenly getting a zero ending. Like that just disappeared off the end of the word. No, I wish. Сергей спрашивает, будет ли исполнение этой песни мной? Нет, не будет. Я не сумею петь песни Цоя, к сожалению. Потому что я ужасно играю на гитаре, по-моему. Белые розы. Да. Ой, есть много хороших песен Цоя. Есть много-много. Мы будем изучать кукушку, мы потом будем изучать «Просто хочешь ты знать». Есть куча песен, которые мы можем брать, но на сегодня я выбрала вот это. Okay. Gustav wants to know, aesthetically, what is the ugliest Russian letter? I don't think there are any, but you guys can argue with him what you think is an ugly Russian letter. Okay, хорошо. So, значит, that's from the verb всё. What's the difference between все and всё? A lot of us Russian learners get these two confused. What is the difference between, if I had left those dots off, it could have been все, right? So все is everybody. Всё is everything. Everything, everybody. Нет, я не могу петь кукушку. Нет, потому что Полина Гагарина уже пела, и я не хочу... Между нами нет никакой конкуренции. я даже не смею. Так, окей, хорошо. So, значит, все не так уж плохо. So, everything's... Okay, how would we translate this into English? So, if I've got a pack of cigarettes in my pocket, then I would even just translate значит as then. Then it's everything. It won't be everything won't be so bad for today. Yeah, and it's уж. That's right, Christy. It just doesn't translate, right? So it's like это не так уж плохо. Like it's not so bad. Come on, it's not so bad. It's almost like, and in English, the way we would translate it, we would have to do an intonation. Like, come on, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. See how I'm doing that intonation? That would be the equivalent of uж. But we just don't have that concept in English, right? We would probably use our intonation. Okay, so everything's not so bad for today. For today. And look how funny this is, that сегодняшний день. Why couldn't it just be на сегодня? Right? And that's like, really, I don't know. I don't have the answer. Why couldn't you just say на сегодня? Why did it have to be на сегодняшний день? If you have... Oh, I see, Alexei. Yeah, if you have a pack of cigarettes, is he talking about himself or just people in general, right? Like, is he saying, if I have a pack of cigarettes, or is he saying like, but if you have, or if one has a pack of cigarettes? And that's good. It's ambiguous. We don't know, right? So you could translate that in multiple ways. That's a great thing for discussion in our community tab. So what's interesting here, we don't have much fancy grammar going on in here. I'm just going to let you know. All that's happening here that I want to point out grammatically is na can be used like as for, and with accusative case. Na with accusative case can be for. Например, я купила водку на Новый год. I bought vodka for New Year's, for your New Year's celebration. for example. So that's, and sometimes not, you wouldn't say two, you would not say two New Year's, you would say 4 New Year's. А что ты подаришь Саше на день рождения? What are you gonna give Sasha for her birthday? For her birthday. Окей, хорошо. Вот, следующее. И билет на самолет. Here we go. Okay, so this is where I have questions for everybody. Do you think все не так уж плохо if you have Пачка сигарет and a ticket? Are those the 2 things you need for everything to be не так уж плохо? Как вы думаете? Что он говорит? Мне непонятно, ну, то есть, чего это касается. То есть и билет на самолет с серебристым крылом, это надо иметь в кармане? Или что? Я не понимаю. Да, то есть, потому что это совсем другое значение. Если он хочет билет, чтобы уезжать куда-то, то, по-моему, это меняет смысл немножко. As of today. Ooh, I like that. Алексей Зубцов. So, на сегодняшний день would mean like as of today. Like at least for today. At least for today, right? Okay, so here we go. Word for word. And a ticket. Okay, this is that na again, which can be, it can be at, it can be to, but in this case, it's going to be for. A ticket for an airplane with a silver wing that flying upward leaves the earth only a shadow. Okay, this is fancy grammar. Fancy grammar. Here we go. See, у меня фломастер вот он. Okay, и билет на самолет. Again, here we're getting accusative case because we say на, because it's like for an occasion, for a specific thing. So, билет на самолет. Ooh, с. What case does с need? Look at these endings here. С. Серебристый. And the original of this was крыло. And notice we're getting these instrumental endings because of с. So that's instrumental. And you guys, when you memorize these songs, really take note of серебристым крылом. Okay, how would I say with a golden ring? С золотым кольцом, right? So memorize, like try and apply those endings that you hear to different situations. That, okay, oh, I love these. I love these. This is called a verbal adverb. This comes from the verb взлетать. And if you want to kind of make it into an ing, like while doing something, then you're going to take off the ending, add on an ya, and it means like while flying upward. While flying upward. That's what that means. It's called a verbal adverb. So for example, what would this mean? Можно спать стоя. Как вы думаете, можно спать стоя? What am I saying there? What verb does that come from? So that comes from стоять. So is it possible to sleep while standing? Is it possible to sleep while standing? Okay, хорошо. Вот. Оставляет. The original of this was оставлять. That means like to leave behind. Leave behind, and then this is getting what case? It can't be prepositional because we need a preposition for it to be prepositional. So when you see sometimes these endings that look almost like they're prepositional, добрый вечер, Георгиос, добро пожаловать. So Alexei, thinks that you can sleep standing. Да, когда я устал, страшно. Вот, это очень забавно. Да, это правда. Некоторые животные спят стоя. Некоторые животные спят стоя. Also, я рекомендую вам искать в интернете, как японцы спят на метро стоя. Это очень забавно. Вы найдете очень прикольное фото. Это вообще очень, очень забавно, как японцы спят стоя в метро. Okay, хорошо. So, оставлять. Look at this conjugation. Just if you saw my other video, we see a «е» tells us it's a first conjugation verb. Я оставляю, ты оставляешь, он оставляет, мы оставляем, так далее. So you're leaving for the earth. This is, the original of this was земля. And this is in dative case. You're leaving to the earth or for the earth. Лишь. This is a hard word to translate in Russian. It can go in several different ways. Лишь can translate as like just a, only, at least. It can translate in lots of different ways depending on the context. A shadow. Оставляет земле лишь тень. Okay, хорошо. This is the next part where I desperately... Мне нужна помощь с переводом, да, потому что вот эта фраза здесь мне очень трудно. Музыка на миру, смерть не красна. Вообще не знаю, как перевести. Вообще не знаю, как перевести. Солы, спасибо. Да, мой английский очень хороший, потому что я американка. Здесь родилась. Спасибо большое. Я рада слышать, что я говорю хорошо на своем родном языке. Good. Okay, so here we go. This part of the song has two really good idioms that are going to be fun to translate. Here we go. And make sure you're seeing this and you're thinking with me. How would I translate that? No one. Remember, in English, no one and nobody are interchangeable. Interchangeable. Okay, so you can say nobody if you want to. You can say no one if you want to. Focus that. No one, not, but remember in English, you cannot do two negatives. You can't say nobody doesn't want. You cannot say that. So no one, not, want. So when we make our translation, we'll make it pretty. To be guilty without, guilty without guilt. That's funny. Guilty without guilt. So for you people who are learning Russian, look at this. Do you see any? Do you see anything in common between these words? Do you see anything in common? This is a word root. Vina, right? Vinovatim. It doesn't mean wine. It means guilt. And you can get lots of different words with this word root. In fact, the word accusative case, vinительный падеж, it means accusing, right? Because it's the same thing. Обвинять кого-то в чем, например, to accuse somebody of something. So this is a word root. I love Russian word roots, and I will probably do a video on it, maybe even a live stream at some point, of how to expand your vocabulary like 100% by learning word roots. Okay. And again, and no one. Let's do nobody here, because remember, they are perfectly, you can change them. Not want. Okay, here we go. Руками жар загребать. Guys, this one's super interesting. Okay, we're going to translate it literally, though. With hands, fire, rake. That's funny. Никто не хотел руками жар загребать. For you who are learning Russian, what in the world could that possibly mean? Руками жар загребать. Загребать жар руками. Своими руками. или чужими руками? Как вы думаете? Это очень интересно. How would you translate this? Okay, here we go. Let's do the grammar and the pretty translation. Okay, this is not getting a case. It's just nominative case. Не хотел. The original of this was хотеть. And we're getting past tense masculine because кто is always going to be treated as a masculine. Никто не хотел виноватым. Okay, so быть plus instrumental case. That's why we're getting виноватым. Виноватым. Быть виноватым. And then here, the original of this was вин. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, thank you. Without wine. Yep, that would make sense why we're getting, nobody wants to be guilty without wine. Okay, I see what everybody's saying now. Because the original of this had to be вино. Да, это точно. The original had to be вино, and that's why we go to без вина. Because if it was without guilt, it would be без вины. Ой, русский язык, великий, могучий, блин. Okay, без вина means without wine. That makes sense. Now I see why I kept saying wine in the comments. Okay, so yes, so it's a play on words. He's being clever here. Виноватым, it sounds very similar to wine. So you don't want to be guilty without wine. Whereas you would think it would be без вины, but it's actually без, he's saying вина. So it's a play on words. Очень хорошо. На трезвую голову. Да, nobody wants to be guilty while also being sober. That's no fun, right? Очень хорошо. So good. So that means this one's without wine. Oh my gosh. Великий русский язык. Великий могучий русский язык. So without wine, and this one is without guilt. Oh, вы, наверное, обескураживаете наших учащихся русский, как иностранный. Okay, so here we go. Nobody wants to be guilty without wine. Nobody, that's why that's funny. Now that you understand those word roots, you understand why that's a play on words. And nobody, same thing, didn't want. Okay, руками. There's no s. If you see instrumental case without a s, we're still going to translate it into English as s because we're saying by means of. Like, how do you rake the fire? With your hands, or you can rake it with a греблёй, like with a rake. So how are you raking the fire? With your hands. Not a very pleasant thing, right? Solih, how did I learn Russian? Я училась самостоятельно. By the way, if you have these kinds of personal questions for you, next week is going to be awesome because it's going to be live. I'm just going to sit there with my phone and you can ask me any question you want and I will answer and tell you anything you want. My children will be back around me being loud. Okay, good. So Serge says somebody's going to do the dirty work. How fun is that? This is what that means. Руками жар загребать means to do the dirty work. And that makes sense because it's not fun to rake fire with your hands, is it? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to rake fire with their hands. So this is in Russian, way you would translate that is to do somebody's dirty work. Okay, хорошо. So руками, the original was рука. And we're getting instrumental case because you're raking the fire with your hands, by means of your hands. Okay, хорошо. Notice жар didn't change. It's accusative, but it's not a feminine singular and it's not inanimate. So we didn't change it. Вот. Okay, here is the idiom that I lost, that I couldn't sleep last night because I was trying to figure out how to translate it. Хорошо, here we go, word for word translation. And without music. Oh, вообще. Ну, вообще, блин. Oh, gosh. On. And I don't know if I should translate this here as world or peace. So I'm hoping people will help me out here. I'm going to say world or maybe No, I don't know. Either world or peace. I'm going to wait for people to tell me in the comments. Good. In the world. Okay, good. That's what I thought. Like при людях. Да, при людях. Да. Okay, good. So in the world, death, not red. See how this makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we're going to figure it out. Слава богу, у меня есть носители среди моих зрителей. And without music, don't хочется literally means to want, but in English we translate this as feel like. And пропадать can mean to fall, but I think in this case is to disappear. Like without a trace, kind of like to disappear. Somebody, where did you disappear to? Куда ты пропал? Ooh, yay! I would have never, я бы никогда не догадалась, что в этом контексте красно значит beautiful. Ой, блин. Этого я бы никогда не знала. Окей, слава богу, что вы есть. Спасибо вам большое, Алексей Зубцов. Okay, so смерть, not beautiful. Oh, this is hurting my brain. Okay, so here we go. Let's do the grammar while you guys think how в этом на белом свете, как же перевести эту фразу? На миру смерть не красна. Ой, и я вообще. Okay, here we go. Grammar. Without. What case do we need for without? We need genitive. So музыка goes to музыки because it's genitive. На миру. This one hurt my brain. Oh, that's horrible. That is horrible. Even death. So на миру и смерть красна. Even death, implied as execution, is beautiful if it takes place in public. That's horrible. Oh my gosh. Okay. So на миру. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in this case, this is that old u ending for, it's a prepositional. На миру, like в лесу, в снегу, на носу. It's one of those old endings and it's stressed in the world. Notice you don't talk like that though today, right? We don't say в мире, we don't say это самый большой бассейн на миру. We don't say that. We say в мире, например, or на свете. So this is an old saying. Смерть, real quick, figure out, if you don't know what gender смерть is, look at what gender this adjective is and see if you can guess. Смерть не красна. So смерть, I always tell people, when you see something that ends in a мягкий знак and you don't know what gender it is, look at the surrounding stuff to see if you can kind of guess what it is. Okay. So смерть не красна. We see a feminine here. We go, okay, смерть is a feminine because it has a красна on the end. So for those of you who are learning Russian, I hope you're reading these comments. It's going to blow your mind that this is old Russian. For those of you that don't know, красный in old Russian used to mean beautiful. So red square, Krasnaya площадь, was originally white. It wasn't originally red. It became red later. So in old times, it was called Krasnaya площадь because it was beautiful, not because it was red. It was beautiful. Also, for those of you who have seen the movie Kolya, it's a Czech movie, чешский фильм. Они говорят, то есть there's a little Russian boy and his Czech dad. And the Russian boy's pointing to the flag and saying, "Наш флаг красный." And the Czech guy, он сердится очень сильно. He gets very mad and he's like, because красный in Czech means beautiful, just like in old Russian. And so he's like, the Russian flag's not beautiful. Наш флаг красный. Like our flag is beautiful, but the Polish flag isn't red. Anyway, super funny. If you haven't seen it, krasny in old Russian and still in certain Slavic languages means beautiful. Okay. So read in the comments how they're translating this. Like we don't have a perfect translation of it in English. But essentially what's happening here is he's saying, without music, it's not so bad to die. If people are watching in public, without music, it's not so bad to die in public. Without music, you don't want to disappear. Without music, you don't want to disappear. You don't feel like disappearing. Also, real quick, so let me give you the original of this verb. Не хочется. If you don't know that word, that's a great one. Мне хочется чая. Мне хочется пиццы. Like, I'm in the mood for, I feel like pizza. This is a really useful thing to know how to say. Хочется comes from хотеть. Okay, and then it's like мне хочется, dative case. So for those of you who are learning English, you would say мне хочется пиццы. I'm in the mood for pizza. I feel like pizza. Мне хочется танцевать. Oh, I feel like dancing. I want to dance, right? So this is a really useful thing. Also, this verb, пропадать, Russians say it all the time. And it can mean to fall through. Like, for example, if you're in a meeting and you say, ой, извините, связь пропала. Like the connection got lost. It fell through. It fell, like it got lost. Or if you see somebody and you haven't seen them in a long time, куда ты пропал? Geez, where did you go? Where have you been? That's how you would say that. Куда ты пропал? Куда ты пропал? And that is a first conjugation verb. Я пропаду, I will disappear. Ты пропадешь, she will, or you will disappear. Они пропадут. They will disappear. And then if you want the несовершенный вид, the imperfective, пропадаю, пропадаешь, пропадает, etc. Okay, хорошо. So I am going to, this is too complex. So I'm going to turn this over to the community tab, and you guys are all going to help me translate this. It's going to be fun because, geez, this, I seriously have no idea how to translate this. Like, на миру смерть не красна. I have no idea. So we will put this over on the community tab. Someday I really want to make all of these notes and all of these translations available for people who are learning Russian because it's so useful. Also, this week I'm going on vacation, so I'll hopefully be posting some shorts on YouTube for you to kind of see where I am, where I'm going, and I'll post those bilingual, so in Russian and in English, so everybody can practice their languages. Also, remember, next week we're meeting at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, New York City time. And it's Q&A. You guys can ask me questions in English. If you ask me a question in English, I'll answer in English. If you ask me a question in Russian, I'll answer in Russian. If you want to meet my sister, she's going to be there close by. If you want to meet my kids, let me know. Моя подруга бразильянка, Bruna, my Brazilian friend, Bruna, will be with me. You can ask her something about what she thinks of whatever. So you guys will get to see my life. That's all next Monday. Again, we're not going to talk about politics or sex. Sorry. Нельзя будет задавать такие вопросы. Хорошо. Это все. So I hope that was useful. We'll put this, because there was so much that I honestly don't know how to translate. And a lot of you had some really good ideas. So take all of your ideas over to the community tab and let's get a full translation of this song. Окей, хорошо. Это все на сегодняшний день. That's all for today. Увидимся в следующий понедельник. We'll see you all next Monday. Хорошо. Это все. Check over at the community tab so we can all work on this translation together. Хорошо. Это все. До свидания. Целую. Пока-пока.